Welcome back to the Masculine Mastery Podcast. And we got a great conversation today, as we always do. Sean and I got some really cool things lined up for this talk. And really, what we want to focus on and what we've been sort of discussing behind the scenes is what does it mean to be a soul led man? What does it mean to be an embodied leader? These are questions that I think we have to ask ourselves, especially those of us that are in the space of wanting to create impact, wanting to step into purpose, wanting to live a life of meaning and fulfillment. These are questions we need to ask ourselves. What does it actually look like? Is there a blueprint for this? And really, this conversation is to provide that blueprint, to provide sort of an outlook on what does it mean to really step into a space where you are not only, most importantly, leading yourself from a space of integrity, from a space of embodiment, but then going out into the world and sharing your gifts with others. Because really, we're all destined for greatness. We're all destined to really step beyond the comfort zone and all of the places in which we play small and into a place in which we can truly be sharing ourselves with the world. So this is what this conversation is dedicated towards. Now, before I pass it over to Sean, just to kind of give some preface here, right, to how this conversation started. We look at a lot of, just specifically social media. Look at the whole landscape, the 22-year-old influencers, right, that are pretending to be life coaches and give this sage wisdom. It's like, you're 22, you're still growing up, you're still trying to get your shit together. There's the TikTok gurus, there's the plant medicine shamans who maybe sat in one ayahuasca journey and now are serving this to others, right? There's the healers that aren't truly embodied or actually looking at their shadows. So there's a lot of false light leadership out there. There's a lot of people that are trying to be someone they're not. And really, this is a path in which you're walking through your own fire and really, truly living in integrity with your soul and sharing your gifts from a place of authenticity. And this is what we want to sort of crack open today and dive into. So, yeah, brother, what does it mean to be a soul-led man to you?
Yeah, man, I loved everything that you said, and I think those last pieces that you mentioned, this culture of people not being embodied in leadership, and yeah, I mean, just the lack of authenticity, and it's not, I look at it, it's a symptom of what the culture has produced, and it's people coming from a place where they are disconnected to the essence of their spirit, of their soul, of their heart. Because only from that place would you would see yourself doing that and immediately put an end to it, and you would realize that your ego has taken over. And I think the driving force behind that is material success, right? And so it's like people almost are pretending to have this like virtuous being in service and contributing, but it's really behind the scenes. They're chasing, material wealth and status, and it's not their fault. It's literally, again, a product of the culture. But now we get to transcend that. And I think for men, this has been so deeply wedged in there of chasing success in that way. And what that does is it filters out what life actually is. It filters out true contribution and giving back and caring for the people around you in your community and your family, and really like taking the position of, the world's hurting. And so that's my issue too. And I see it a lot, and it has a lot of different costumes that people wear around it. So I love that we're talking about this, because it's not, I just want to start with like, it's another thing I see on the internet is like people calling each other out. And I agree with calling things out, but it's the way that it's done. And and a lot of that is clout chasing. A lot of it is trying to bring people down. And so for me, it's like, let's do it without shame. Let's call each other forward through the lens of love and through the lens of like, oh yeah, I'm also you. I've been lost in that place too. No judgment. but let's like, remind each other and call each other forward so we can start to really be in that place of embodied leadership. So uh, it's about coming back to the soul, like your essence and your heart. And I think for a lot of guys, they'd be like, well, what does that look like? I don't really know, because I know personally a lot of men that are having these awakening experiences, and they're in this place of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know where to go. And I want to say that's the place to start. You're in a beautiful place when the slate is blank, because now you get to fill it with truth instead of the bullshit and the programming. And so to me, if you look all over, there's symptoms everywhere of us being disconnected from our soul. There's the epidemic of loneliness, addiction, suicide just continues to get crazy among men, especially in their 50s. There's a huge increase in that right now. And there's like all of so many men's attention is being sucked into, I got to make money. Money is God. Um, Status is God. I got to become a high value man. So I think the conversation that we're having is like, what is a high value man? What is a soul led man? So that we can start to have the picture in our own minds and start to move towards that instead of the program doing it for us. So I feel like this is such a big conversation, and no matter where you're coming at it from, yeah, I want to lead with there's no shame or judgment with wherever you're at. Maybe you've been completely sucked into that, and you've been somebody that's been leading from the ego place, and I have too. And I just want to say that. So yeah, we can open it up from here, but this is a beautiful talk.
Yeah, I really think that it all comes down to the questions that you ask yourself, right? The questions that you ask yourself, where are those questions rooted in? Are they rooted in like a limited mindset, or are they rooted in more of an expansive mindset? And oftentimes, based on our own survival needs, the questions are like, okay, well, how can I make money? How can I get by to the next day? How can I pay my rent? How can I provide for my family? And these are all necessary questions to ask, because we have to take care of our survival needs before we can actually get into a higher state of consciousness and really into a place. Now, what I truly feel is that we can bypass some of those questions, and the reason is because when we start asking bigger questions like, how can I be of service to the whole? What are my gifts? What am I here to share with the world? um, and we'll keep listing more questions, but just a few there. When you start asking those questions and you start actually listening, right? You start going into a place of stillness and into a place of being with your breath, being with yourself, and you start to really tune in. Some of the answers you receive may surprise you, but all of that will lead to not only fulfillment, but it will lead to prosperity. It will lead to abundance, because when we're of service to the whole, we're actually of service to ourselves. And so, everybody here is meant to make a difference in some fashion, some form or way. It doesn't have to be on a global impact. It can be even just in your small community. But everybody is designed for service. Everybody is designed to fulfill a higher destiny or purpose. And so when you begin to tune into these questions and you start to ask these things to yourself, to your soul, the path will eventually begin to reveal what it is that you need to then take inspired action to go out and do. And oftentimes, when we're asking these questions as well, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up to the surface. There's a lot of shadow, a lot of unworthiness, insecurity, and inadequacy that all needs to be seen, because it's living within us. All the anxiety and fear, whatever's living within us, you know, in this path of becoming an embodied leader, it means walking the talk and going into the fire to look at ourselves, to look at all of the false programming, the conditioning, the imprints, the traumas, the wounds, And especially if we want to be of service and hold a space of integrity for other people to come into, we must also be doing the work. And so it's going to require a little bit of an extra step. Oftentimes it's much easier to exist in our little boxes in our comfort zone, but really to be a soul-led man, to be a man that is of service, a man that is of purpose, that is leading others, that is leading themselves, and really creating a legacy. They are walking into the fire day in and day out, and they are facing everything that is coming up, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it might be. But this is what sharpens your sword and allows you to be a powerful, potent force of transformation in this world. And that is what this world needs right now. The world does not need more people parroting, regurgitating the same stuff, and all of the things that we see in social media, right? This is a path we are walking every day through the doubt, through the discomfort, through the initiations. And this is something that inevitably, as you continue to walk this path, you will become and really step into an expanded version of yourself. And I'm just so fired up on this topic because it's something that Sean and I, you know, we wouldn't automatically say it on the outside, right? Like, we are two leaders, but we are leaders. We are people that have been holding spaces for others, holding space for ourselves for many years now. And this is something that a topic that I care deeply about, because to see more leaders embodied in themselves and to be sharing their gifts is truly what this world needs right now, especially in this moment of chaos and all things falling apart.
Yes. Oh man, there's this threshold that seems like a lot of men are approaching, and it's like a new orientation of what it is to be like you're going from a wounded childhood, you're going from a fractured sense of self into a place of unity, into a place of, oh, I'm connected to all of life and all beings. And there's that space of prioritizing the space within yourself, because only from there can your intuition come online, can you get the whispers of truth coming in, and it's not the conversation up in your head, the mental one that we're so used to, so addicted to relying on, really. Like, that's what a lot of men have relied on their entire life. So to step out of that and come into a place where they're getting guidance from a different source is a little bit of, it's a little unsettling. And I think we do what we do because we've gone through that process, and we know that prioritizing that space and slowing your brain waves down to connect with a part of you that is much greater than your own mind. And that's why we talk about like the feminine stuff on here a lot, because only from that place of receiving can you start to become a soul-led man who is both balanced in his masculine and feminine nature, where he's giving and receiving, and he's allowing the intelligence of life to flow through seamlessly and not blocking it with his own mind. So a lot of men are, they don't realize that their energy, their awareness, where the thoughts are coming from, why they make the decisions that they're making, are coming from a place of their life force energy just being stuck in the root chakra, in the lower energy centers of the body. And that's their whole orientation of how they've always known themselves to be. And in that place, there's a lot of wounds. There's a lot of survivalism. There's that feeling of separation. I'm a separate self. And this time period we're in, we're climbing out of that back into the heart, where you prioritize your creativity, you prioritize that space, you prioritize contribution. How can I make this place better than I found it? And it's not this obsession with the material gain and the status gain, like that stuff goes away. You don't really care about that anymore. You care about the people around you, how you're making them feel, how you're making your community a better place, and your family a safe place where people can be who they are. And it starts, of course, with you, with us, inside of us. And I just see this really interesting unfolding happening where I think the contrast is getting so stark and so much egos coming into the scene on social media, all over the place. Like, of course, a guy like, let's say, Andrew Tate, I think he makes a lot of great points with stuff. But also, I can feel he comes from more of a non integrated, soul led place. And he's speaking to all of these men who feel very disconnected and very empty and very like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know who I am. I'm just going to chase money. I'm just going to like, put all my life force into having material success. And we're evolving beyond that. And so I think our main message here is to help guys have a picture of like, okay, what does it look like? How do I start to come from that soul led place? And to me, the first step is to slow things down, like you said, ask the bigger questions and expand your field, expand to beyond just you. And that inherently starts to put you in that place. And men coming together and doing this, like modeling this together without shame or judgment, I think is so huge. And it's been this like collective spell that we've all been under since we were freaking kids that we're breaking free of. And it's not easy, and it's challenging, and it takes us being mirrors for one another for this process to happen. It's the only way it can happen, because when we're in isolation, that's when we're the most susceptible to the insidious disease of the program and the psychological manipulation that has grabbed hold of a lot of men and caused a lot of suffering and caused a lot of destruction. And so we're just kind of in this process of starting to come out of that, starting to say like, hey, there's another way. What about this over here? Would you be willing to look at this? Would you be willing to open up? Would you be willing to have a new experience and consider a new way? And I think that's what we're really asking for is for guys to consider and start to create the possibility of a brand new way of being in this world.
Yeah. And that's untangling, right? That's unveiling all of the things that have kept us from living from that space. And that can seem I guess intense at times. That can seem intimidating in many ways, right? But once you touch that place of aliveness within yourself, and once you touch that place of your own heart, and you start to see and you look around the world and you ask yourself a question is like, what truly makes my heart breaking about this world? And what am I doing about it? Right? This does not mean you have to be some hero and go out and save the world. That's not what we're talking about. But the reason I do what I do, the reason Sean does what he does, isn't just from a place of making money, right? That's a byproduct of it. But the first and most important thing is because we are desiring to support people in their own healing and transformation. And having done so now for many years, thousands of people, to see how someone's life changes, how they go from a place of suffering and a place of victimhood, a place of limitation, to a place of thriving and really, truly feeling joyful, fulfilled, prosperous within themselves. That is why I do what I do. And I know it's why Sean does what he does. And so these questions, back to the questions, because they're so important. What does my soul really want me to know? Ask yourself that. If you ask just that one question every day, what does my soul want me to know today? When you tune into that question, you may at first not hear much or receive much, or perceivably not receive much, but your soul is always speaking to you. But it's oftentimes the quiet whispers that happen that are beneath the ego mind. And the ego mind is quite rampant, it's fast, it's quick, and it's noisy. And so it really takes space to listen to this guidance and these things. Now, sometimes the soul will speak very loudly, and that may come in the form of you getting your ass kicked somehow by going through a breakup, going through a job loss, going through an accident, going through something that is an initiation or a catalyst to catapult you into another level. This is not a punishment. This is something that is here for you to recognize and remember the power that you have within yourself. And that can happen. It's happened to me. It's happened to Sean. These
Mhm.
initiations do happen, but they are incredibly powerful for waking us up. Because again, you as a soul signed a contract upon incarnating on this planet without your remembrance right now. There's some amnesia for sure. We forget. And why else would we then want to play the earth game? But you signed a contract and you wrote and signed on the dotted line that you would come and fulfill this mission or this destiny. And every single one of us is encoded within our very DNA to fulfill and do something greater than ourselves. And
Mm.
so, what is that for you? What is that for you? There is something within you that is living within you, a living piece of code that you can tap into. And once you begin to uncover this, your life will begin to change and transform in the most magical and miraculous ways. But it does require us to say fuck yes to ourselves and to this sacred mission. And so, if you're ready to do so, then we encourage you to really sit with these questions. Ask your soul, what does my soul really want me to know today? How can I be of greatest service to the whole? What gifts am I here to share? Ask yourself these questions and watch how things begin to open up through signs, through synchronicities, through opportunities, through different things that vibrate and magnetize into your very field.
Mm. Yes. Oh man. Going back to something you said earlier, a soul-led man is not in his small self frame anymore. And so now he is basically an instrument and an antenna for the intelligence of life to flow through, which when that's happening, uh, that's when miracles come in. That's when you have the capacity to do things that are beyond your wildest imagination. When you're in the small self frame, you can't have that. You're very limited. So the soul led man uh, surrenders to life and what life wants to do, moving through him instead of his own kind of like material world desires. And that's another thing too, right? Like the soul led man transcends the material world, which is just so alluring, and it's so easy to grab somebody and pull them in and keep them hypnotized and keep their attention out here on all the shiny things instead of bringing it back within themselves. And I agree, man. I think especially every man that would be watching something like this, they have the greatness within them, and it is going to be and is revealed when they realize who they are and they pop out of the small self frame, which is why, when we do our events that we design it so that it helps you get out of that small self frame. So you expand and you're like, oh shit, okay, yes. As Chris said, I'm an infinite soul playing this game, and I got sucked into the material world where I got so used to struggle and treading water and just keeping my head above the waves that when I finally got on land, I could breathe again for a moment. And it was like, oh, okay, now I'm in this place where like I might be able to know who I am, and I get to discover this virgin island that I just landed on, which is the true self. But then the ego and the material world, the body consciousness is like, well, hold on a second. You better start getting ready to tread water again, because that's what you know. That's where you've been. And we got to keep ourselves prepared for that. And so, can you allow the process of when your body and that part of your old identity is like, no, go back to what's known, go back to the familiar, go back to the struggle? Can you say and hold the energy of, that's not my story, that's not who I am, and pull your attention off of it and keep it towards truth, keep it towards asking the bigger questions, keep it towards uh, another beautiful, powerful, simple question from the soul-led man is, what would I like to create? What expands my heart? What excites me? What lights me up? What gives me that sense of passion and purpose? That is where I'm keeping my attention, no matter what tries to tempt me away from that. Because when you start to, come onto land, not treading water, you bet your ass every part of that old identity is going to throw every trick in the book to hook you emotionally back to the old place. And this is why we need to support each other. This is why we need to get in intentional space as men and be mirrors and have that support system, because this game is challenging and it's designed this way because we wanted it to be like that. But you can't, the game was never meant and designed to do it alone. And that's the reason why we do the retreats, why we create support systems for men, because we recognize that if you take it on alone, the game is going to eat you alive, especially at this point with all of the information, all the distractions, all the addictions, all the ways that we can get hypnotized again, more than we've ever seen on the planet. Like, by far. It's, if you want to get away from an uncomfortable feeling, you got your phone in your pocket. You got literally every drug you can imagine at your fingertips that you can call someone and get. You can put on any incredible, there's a million good TV shows you can tune out to. So can we see that going on and be like, all right, I get it. That's powerful. I'm not going to underestimate it. Like, I got to get together with my brothers, stay in that intentional space, stay on purpose, and start to recode myself where this becomes natural. It's not going to stay this way where it feels like you're deadlifting 1,000 pounds and it's like tons of effort and work. It's the initial process that's like, because you're recoding everything. You're starting to create from the blank slate. So this is such an incredible process that when you walk through it with other guys, it's so fun and enjoyable, and it's like, it's that camaraderie, that brotherhood feeling that takes you through the difficulties of this transition. We are in a massive transition, and this is the greatness that's always been with you coming out. Now you are an instrument for life, instead of trying to force your way and effort and struggle and matter to matter. Like, that's the old way. The soul-led man knows it starts within him. In him, he's the source. Out here is an illusion, and his contribution is part of evolution itself. That's a much bigger frame than little me, and I got to make money and I got to provide for my family. Like, yes, that's important. Of course, it's number one. But like, people get stuck there. Their focus is just on themselves and their family instead of the greater whole. And we're coming out of that place. Like, survivalism's being washed out, and we're coming back into a purpose, creativity led, inspirationally led frame, where men are waking up excited to be who they are and excited to be of service. Like, that's a life worth living, and we're throwing away everything that's not that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, very beautifully said, and couldn't agree more, and so as we move into this next phase of consciousness where things are evolving very quickly, there are men, I'm sure, listening to this right now that feel that fire burning within, that are resonating with these very words that we are speaking. And for those that are in resonance, those that are feeling this frequency and this energy, then we invite you to come and join us in June, which will be end of June, Montana. 5-day men's retreat. It's a full immersion, transformation, plant medicine, breath work, cold plunging, all sweat lodge, all of the stuff that really begins to support us and recode our very self and our nervous system. And not only that, but the most important medicine that's there beyond everything I mentioned is the brotherhood piece, is the community. Walking away with friends that you may have for a lifetime, business partners, people that you may actually develop a close relationship to. Because the fact is that most men have very, very little close friends, or I even know men that don't have any friends in their lives. And having a brother, having another man, a confidant, someone that you can call upon in times of need or to celebrate your wins and everything is so incredibly important. So that's why we create these spaces, and, really excited for all of the incredible expansion that's going to happen as a result for the men that step into this space. So if you feel the call, you can click in the show notes below the link. We still have a few spots left open, and we are excited to see you there and to support you in becoming an embodied leader and a soul led man.
As always, if you are listening to these words and you feel something, you feel a pull, you feel like this is something that I need in my life, huge invitation to follow it. And it doesn't have to be with us. It can be anything that is giving you that feeling, but we've been doing this for a little bit now. And at the end of these retreats, I get to see these guys' faces. I get to see who they really are. I get to laugh with them. We get to walk with them through some serious fires that they allow themselves to go through so that they can find out who they really are. Right. And it's like, that's what we're building, a world where everybody knows who they really are and the amnesia starts to wear off. Like, we're at that point in the game where we get to create a world where it's authenticity celebrated. You're not looping in fears and struggles and a false sense of who you think you are. You're back home within yourself, and there's no greater reunion than that. And I've said it before, but we don't have the outward battle that gave a lot of men, a lot of our ancestors, purpose back in the days. The Great War that gave men the camaraderie, the brotherhood, that sense of purpose, something to fight for. Right? For us, in this period of evolution, this is an internal battle. This is the unseen, invisible battle. It's not an externalized one. So when we get together and we face off with the fears and we do the emotional alchemizing, that's our generations. That's our period of time in history. That's our great war and our great battle and purpose. And just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's not there. And when you can connect to this, you'll see what we're talking about. And when we all come together and go through those portals, it's the same thing. It's a battle. It feels like death a lot of times. You're dying to the old part of you. And what comes through is a man who is going to be such a better husband, father, partner, community member. Like, he lifts up everything around him because he was willing to go through that and willing to do whatever it took to find himself again through the maze that the material world sets up. So there's no better experience to me than this kind of a thing in Montana at this incredible property where it's designed for this purpose. And I have zero doubt that you're going to leave feeling like a brand new man, and you're going to feel like you have a community of brothers around you, and nothing can stop you when you have that. So we hope that you join us if you're feeling this message.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well, Well, brothers, we hope to see some of you there, and really feeling the fire lately, and ready to step into it with you. So, looking forward to seeing you there, and we will speak to you soon. Much love. Peace.